I'm Stu Updike, Chair of the Plan Commission. I will call now this meeting to order on the 13th of October. We do, in fact, have a quorum. The first agenda item is the approval of the September 15 meeting minutes. Is there a motion or a question? Dave?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the zoning text amendment for various portions of the zoning ordinance affecting animal hospitals. Mr. Dunkley.
Bill Dunkley, Zoning Administrator. Item 10 PLND 0073 is an ordinance, corresponds to Ordinance 78010, which is a text amendment to the zoning ordinance that updates both the definitions, the use definitions. I'm sorry, it doesn't update the use definitions. This one just updates the permitted and special uses in the C and the B and C, business and commercial zoning districts. The origin of this text amendment is a petition by a potential business operator who would like to open a veterinary clinic, or also known as an animal hospital, in the city of Evanston, and has located the ideal location, which many business development experts would probably agree it would be that ideal location. However, as it turns out, the B and C districts do not allow animal hospitals. Seeing no reason why such uses would be excluded from those districts, especially with the definition of the animal hospital excluding exterior keeping of animals and no overnight stays except for veterinary purposes, we proposed this text amendment. Review of which would provide for the animal hospitals to operate by special use in the business and commercial districts. I'm sorry, they can operate currently in C1 and C2. So extending that to the B districts and to C1A is really the heart of this text amendment. A review of existing veterinary clinics or animal hospitals showed 5 that currently operate, many of which are not in districts in which they are currently allowed by special use, and that's because of various changes to the code or changes to the districts over time. We've also found a remarkable lack of any write-ups or any complaints regarding these current businesses, and the need to expand our business development opportunities seem to compel us to present this text amendment to you tonight. September 22nd, the Zoning Committee heard this case in public hearing and voted unanimously to recommend favorably. With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions? I also recall that it was a unanimous decision. So if there are no questions, is there a motion?
I move to recommend to the council the adoption of I move to recommend to the council the adoption of the proposed ordinance allowing animal hospitals in additional zones of special uses.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Now, we do need a recitation of the standards, if I'm not mistaken here, and I would like to recite For text amendments, there are 4 standards. There's only one really applicable here, and that is whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals and objectives and policies of the comprehensive general plan. And I believe the proposed amendment is consistent with those goals, objectives, and policies. And specifically, I will recite from something that the staff prepared that I think reflects that finding. An animal hospital would not detriment neighborhood character and still support diversity. Current zoning restrictions limit competition and choices for Evanston residents. Neighborhood residents are likely to seek care in neighboring communities. Opening new zone areas to residents with companion animals would allow more business to stay within Evanston. The growing number of residents with companion animals and the increased desire for excellent care for these animals as members of the family calls for increased choices and availability of animal hospitals. Veterinarians are key members of the community to promote general health, animal health, and the reduction of risk of zoonotic diseases, that is to say, diseases which can be transmitted from animals to humans. Therefore, additional zoning for animal hospitals would promote public health. Animal hospitals in the B1A, B1, and B2 zones, neighboring residential areas would allow increased pedestrian access to animal care, job opportunities, and potential work-study access for interested students. This can have an added benefit of reducing motor vehicle usage. Small animal hospitals have greatly improved in design and standard of care in the past decades. These improvements reduce potential inherent negative impacts such as noise and odor when located near residential areas. Do any members of the Commission take issue with what I have just recited, or would you care to add anything to that? All right. Then I believe that the standards are clearly met. The standards enunciated in section 6345, the standards for text amendment. Next item.
The next item is 10 PLND 0074, which corresponds to Ordinance 77010, to amend portions of the zoning ordinance relating to religious institutions in the business, commercial, and downtown zoning districts. This item was before the zoning committee also in September. And it is similar in structure, anyway, to the previous item. However, currently, religious institutions are allowed as a permitted use in the B and C districts, business and commercial districts. We've heard testimony that by right ability to operate, particularly when it comes in the form of a storefront church, can sometimes be disruptive and doesn't necessarily fit the purpose of those commercial, or neighborhood-oriented commercial districts. This text amendment serves to change religious institutions from a permitted use in the B and C districts to a special use. It also, and this is a slight amendment from the zoning committee. However, when we came back and looked at the profiles for religious institutions, particularly against the downtown districts, it appeared to us that, in fact, religious institutions are permitted use in the D1 district as well. And it would be conspicuous by its absence if that were not treated along with the business and commercial districts similarly. We found no reason why it should not be. Downtown is a business and economic uses and daytime uses is a key part of downtown, just as it is in our commercial and business districts. So that's one recommended change. The other is an addition or change to the parking requirements, and that is to section 616.12. Those of you who I'm sure know the parking chapter, backwards and forwards, know that is a reference to the general exemption that we grant we grant changes of use in the city from an evaluation of their parking requirements, their off-street parking requirements. If you build a new structure, you have to provide parking for that use, depending upon a certain formula, which is specific to that use. However, if you change uses, if you change from one use to another, regardless of whether it's within the category of use, residential, commercial to commercial, or cross categories, if it is an allowed use, We do not reevaluate parking requirements except in 2 instances, and that is to a change to medical or dental offices, because they can have such an impact on, or such a different profile of change of use. In reviewing the testimony and the purpose behind this text amendment, we sought to amend that section as well, so that we would add a third use to the list of those that are not exempt from that reevaluation of parking, that being religious institutions. And again, because the travel, access, and parking requirements are so different, particularly in business and commercial districts, they're can be such an impact that we may want to reevaluate those needs based on a change of use. So, for instance, with no additional construction, there would be a reevaluation of the parking needs.
Questions? Again, I think these proposed changes were all approved unanimously coming out of the zoning committee. Scott, were they not?
The last 2 items are updates.
True. That aside, the changing the permitted to the special use, I think, was unanimous. Scott, do you have a question?
One of the reasons for the special use treatment of churches, religious institutions, is that they can vary in size from 5 people to, in this region, 17,000.
Turn on your mic. Thank you.
One of the reasons for the special use treatment of churches is that they can, in this region, vary in size from 5 persons or fewer to 17,000, and the impact on the neighborhood is quite different. The proposed change in the parking requirement applies only where there's a change in use, but doesn't address size. And so I would suggest adding the phrase after the word use, comma, intensity of use, or material changes in congregation size, so that a parking review is tripped when a congregation becomes, a church becomes substantially different in terms of its impact.
Normally, a change of that would really necessitate a review would also be accompanied by some additional construction, which would naturally be subject to parking requirements. So I'm wondering whether that would...
I think the word use would refer to use as we define it. And so with an enlargement, you move from religious use to religious use, which is why I think additional wording is needed. I support the proposed change to the ordinance with that change of wording, additional wording in the exemption section 6-16-1-2. And I guess I move approval.
Sorry, can you...
Yeah.
Can we just capture specifically what...
After the word use,
which,
so it would read changes in use, comma, intensity of use, or material changes in congregation size. And
You're on page 2, is
I'm
that
on
it?
page 4,
or the ordinance?
looking at section D
Is this stuff yours here?
in the section 616-1-2.
My computer here is...
My
Seth.
computer froze, so I'm trying to read along online here, and it's frozen.
My concern with that specific language is a change to intensity of use without a threshold or without specific guidance on what constitutes whether this is a significant change to intensity or a dramatic change in intensity. What we have, it gives us nothing to guide us on what any change in intensity could be. There could be subject to that.
I suppose I could say changes in intensity of use which change the parking and loading impact on the neighborhood or on the area near the use. And that still requires interpretation, but
Again, that's normally signaled by addition of space, some new construction.
But if you use the word, as worded here, as opposed to the paragraph A, major changes in size, in the number of people attending, including construction, doesn't trip this requirement. Because before the construction, you would have a religious use, and after the construction, you would have a religious
we have,
use.
I'm sorry, other places of the code, other portions of the code require the additional off-street parking for any change in square footage. So from a structural point of view,
I'm addressing the issue where there isn't a change in square footage. There's a change in the number of people attending the location on a regular basis.
Yeah, Bill, let me add to this for a second. It's not uncommon for one congregation to join with another one to save some money and other things, convenience. And you may have a significant difference in the number of people that are now using that building. I don't know how you cover that or whether that's a concern.
Even if you track the language that applies to the medical and dental offices, that would be sufficient.
so changes in use or intensity of use.
Yeah.
I think that would be safest.
That would be sufficient.
Okay. I think that the language you suggest, whereas the intention is good, it's well intentioned, that might actually put us over the top of treating religious institutions differently because we don't have that treatment for any other.
Well, there are few. I can think of no other uses that vary with impact in the way that churches do, from no impact at all to very significant impact. But if you're more comfortable with the wording of the existing section A, that would be adequate.
Do you want to study this a little bit, Bill?
Oh, I'm
Okay.
Fine with that. Yeah.
All right. So then, would
So
you?
we are making those changes or no changes?
We're going to incorporate the change that Mr. Peters has suggested. Okay. Would you recite what that change is then, Mr. Dunkley?
616.12b would now read changes in use or intensity of use to religious institution in the business, commercial, or downtown districts.
Okay. Mr. Peters, then would you restate your motion? If there are no other questions?
I move we recommend approval of this ordinance change with the wording change just discussed.
Oh, and along with the other proposals for change.
That's correct.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Now, do you not need a recitation of the fact that the standards have been met?
A grievous fault to leave that out.
Pardon me?
It would be grievous to leave that out.
Okay. Then again, I direct our attention to Section 6345, Standards for Text Amendment, and the only applicable one here. And these are standards that the council has got to look at, among others. And the applicable standard here is whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the Comprehensive General Plan. I believe it is. Does anyone disagree, or would anyone like to add to?
The special use treatment for churches allows consideration of the particular features of different areas in the comprehensive plan on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Anyone else? All right. Do we all agree then that this standard has been met? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone who disagrees, please say aye. No one has disagreed. All right. Thanks. Next item. Evanston Plan. By the way, are there any members of the public here that would like to make a comment? Ms. Feldman. Very good. Evanston Plan 2030. Mr. Sklenar.
Good evening. I just wanted to give a quick update and on a couple items. First, CMAP, the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, unanimously approved their comprehensive plan today. Took them not long to do that, surprisingly. So we will be researching that a little bit more. I've already read the draft. I can't imagine too much has changed between the last time we discussed the comprehensive plan that they have. And I will be drafting a report that would feed into our new comprehensive plan, how we can tie into regional goals as well. Second, I would like to start having subcommittee meetings. Mr. Peters and I will start coordinating those as soon as possible. So if you want to be on the subcommittee and want to get to work on this, please let us know. I have.
Did you hear that, Jessica Feldman?
I heard that.
Are you okay, good.
What's going on there? Is it just the plan commission meeting?
No, I think there are going to be.
There are two specific groups that we have. One is a stakeholder group who will review material that the subcommittee will be preparing for the comprehensive plan. The other is the subcommittee, in which we call it the working group in some of our documentation, that's comprised of Plan Commission members and selected professionals that live in Evanston that can help us consult on the plan. I was trying to figure out the word to use. To consult on the plan and help us write actual text or provide memos that we can use when drafting the plan. So those are our two primary groups. We will have registration information online and more information on that in the next couple months.
Qualifies for stakeholders.
Evanston residents that are concerned.
I was just wondering whether the residents came in. I'm just-
Oh, absolutely.
Non-professional residents.
Absolutely. That's where the stakeholders would come in, people that are concerned, that have interest in this community.
How large are the committees going to be?
Working group will be a smaller group. We haven't designated a number. Stakeholder may be a little bit larger. They meet less frequently than the working group would.
Thank you, Ms. Feldman. All right, anything else, Craig?
I am going to scan. We made a huge move in the planning in the whole community economic development department, and I've been reading old plans as a effort to understand the knowledge of Evanston. And I've had the opportunity this week to really dive into the 1972 comprehensive plan. So I will be scanning this for you all. It's very well written. A lot of information that is said in this book is applicable today. Minus things like having to integrate our schools, et cetera. There's some really interesting history in this book. So I encourage you to read that as well as reread the 99 update to the comprehensive plan. Give you a good, I think it gives you a good balance of all the issues that have emerged in the last 40 years and helps pave us a path to the future. So that's all I have at this time.
Thank you. Committee reports? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn. By the way, the zoning committee will convene immediately upon adjournment of the Plan Commission this evening. Is that right, Mr. Dunkley? 15 minutes. Okay. So, all right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All those in favor, is there a second?
Second. No move. Aye.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Let me ask off the record, since commission members
is for me. It's